Any conversation about brand viability starts with consistency, first and foremost. The act of showing up makes a fundamental difference. It demonstrates your brand ability to have loyalty as a fundamental principle for the consumers you're trying to market to. And according to my friends over at LinkedIn, they found consistent branding can consistently impact revenue at the end of the day. With businesses experiencing a 23% higher revenue through cohesive and recognizable brand identities, this underscores the importance of maintaining consistency across all marketing channels to build trust, loyalty, and security amongst the consumers you're attempting to reach. Furthermore, LinkedIn also says brand visibility is also amplified through consistency, with brands that show up across all major platforms consistently are 3 to 4 times more likely to experience stronger visibility. This must be welcome news for my friend Jennings. He's an online coach and entrepreneur and the founder of Phantom Brands, where he's created brands for high-profile athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs. He's created brands for the likes of Marvin Bagley III and Jalen Armour Davis of the Baltimore Ravens. And he says his company helped to change his life, making $98,000 in just 1 month. Beyond his company, Jennings says that he spent years mastering the art of mindset transformation and manifestation, which he says has been a game changer for himself and the people that he coaches and works with. Jennings says that he believes that success starts from within, and he sat down with me this week to discuss how aligning mindset with action can result in a transformational experience both in life and in business. So without further delay, I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Jared, if you're ready, my friend, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm super excited to talk to you about brand building today. Great to see you. And thanks for a few minutes, my friend.
Perfect. Whenever you're ready, I'm good to go.
Absolutely. So, Jared, I know that you focus on brand building, my friend. And you tell me that building a great brand causes you to tell a great brand story. So tell me, my friend, what do you think is the secret sauce to telling a great brand story?
I think really being really authentic and vulnerable with who you are as a person and who your company is and why you started and your purpose for existing, I think is very important for people to understand in terms of your story and just the things you've overcome, and being vulnerable and being authentic with who you are is really going to resonate with everybody, regardless of if they're in your target audience or not. It's definitely going to resonate and be very relatable when you're telling your story.
Absolutely. Now, I know that working on Phantom Brands, my friend, that you've really found a personal sense of identity. So tell me about that, starting your company and the sense of personal identity it's brought to you, my friend.
Yeah, it's definitely a journey that is a personal one that definitely goes beyond business. There's never any business that anybody founds that it doesn't affect them personally. So something that I think is very important is when you focus on building a business, you also want to be very focused on personal development, who you are as an individual, your thoughts, your beliefs, all of those important things, because the business always seeps into the personal, as you just mentioned. So it's definitely a personal and a business journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And when developing a brand, Jared, I don't need to tell you that your messaging is important, my friend. So, how do we strike the right tone between uh, getting our point across from the product or service that we're trying to sell, but also the messaging as well? So, what's the key to great brand messaging, in your opinion, my friend?
I would say it's combining what your consumer wants to understand about you and wants to learn with your authentic story. Because if we're able to transcend what do they care about, our consumer, why is it that they buy, why is it that they buy in, what can we attach to them emotionally that they care about, but also tell our story in the same way, in the same light, in the same tonality, in the same messaging. That's when our messaging is going to be very, very powerful and resonate very deeply with our target audience.
Yeah, and what sort of core principles do you think any any core messaging has to have, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
I think it needs to resonate. I think it needs to be relatable. I think that it also needs to speak to pain points and obstacles that the target audience is going through without them having to ask about it. So if that's losing weight, if that's making money, if that's wearing comfortable clothes, whatever the case is, we want to speak on and make it a point to address potential mental obstacles specifically for our demographic. And those are really some of the principles that I would lean on for great messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about listening to consumers, it really helps to listen to an audience when building a brand. So talk to me about listening and networking with the consumers that we're trying to sell to. What do you think is the key to connecting with consumers, my friend?
They always have the answers. So I always tell ecom brands or any founder to talk to your consumers, talk to your client base. I think it's a great idea to run surveys and to have one-on-one conversations with your bigger clients because they're the ones that are like the market is always going to dictate what is needed and what they care about. So if we can genuinely have conversations with them, not only to build relationships, which I think are fantastic, but also to fully understand what it is they care about, then we have it straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jared, what do you think it means to build an elite brand? Because, a lot of people get into business and they have great ideas, but they don't always have great discipline to build brands that last. So what do you think it means to build an elite brand that is sustainable? What are your thoughts there?
You definitely have to have a long-term perspective. I think having the discipline to build a great brand, like you just mentioned, is not saying yes to low-hanging opportunities and low-hanging fruit for a short-term win and having more of a long-term perspective. Because what we want to do with a brand is really ingrained into our consumer's mind a very clear emotional perspective response to our brand. Like we want to be known in the mind of our consumers very clearly who we are and create that emotional response and have that perspective be how we want to paint that picture. And if we're going and making decisions that are going to have short-term effects but long-term pain points for us, that's definitely not something we want to do. And we need that discipline to say no to those things.
Yeah, Jared, I'm curious to ask you about the emotional connection to a brand, and I'll use myself as an example. So, outside of hosting this podcast, my friend, I get paid to tell my story as a professional speaker because, Jared, at the age of 9, buddy, I found out that I wouldn't be able to walk without assistance for the duration of my life because I was born with cerebral palsy, and I found out at 9 that I wouldn't be able to walk. And now I help businesses amplify the hiring of people with disabilities, and I use my personal story as a emotional point of connection. So tell me about the importance of using emotional connection as a brand building strategy and really connecting with people where they are, my friend. How important do you think that is?
I think it's very important, and your story is very inspiring, by the way. But I do believe that human beings are emotional creatures, and we can't tell a story or build a brand or make a persuasive case for ourselves, whether it's ourselves or a business, without leaning into human needs, without leaning into the emotion, the natural emotion of people, right? So in your case, I think it's fantastic that you're leaning into the emotion of what you've been through, right? And that's where the vulnerability and the authenticity is really, really important in creating that emotion to have people resonate with you so that people can understand your point further, so that people are more compelled to take action with you. I think it's all very important.
Absolutely. And I know for you and Phantom Brands, my friend, you work with athletes, celebrities, and artists. So tell me about creating relationships with the people you work with and why you're personally connected to the work that you do, buddy.
So creating relationships with this type of clientele is interesting. Obviously, everybody has their different characteristics, right? Depending on the market. Celebrities are not going to act the same as maybe a small business owner. Everybody just acts differently based on who they are and based on how their life is. So to build a good relationship with my clients, I need to first understand who they are as people. And generally speaking, public figures want things done at a very high level and done for them, right? They're more interested in making sure the outcome is fantastic and having us do all the work than really getting into the weeds with us. So how we cultivate that to build a strong relationship is we're always predicting the next problem to solve for them, right? We're always on the lookout for the next things that's going to arise because we don't put anything on their plate. We really want to be the one-stop shop partner. We want to be the done-for-you partner. We want to make this as frictionless and as easy for them as absolutely possible. And if we can fulfill their needs through that, then we can build great relationships with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jared, I know that you work with professional athletes as well. And as an old sports reporter, buddy, that's what drew me initially to your story. And I'm curious to ask you about the importance of building a brand with athletes during their playing career so that they can have a sustainable level of income and also an identity after their playing days are over. How important do you think that is?
I think it's absolutely so important because depending on the sport, the average career lifespan is typically between 2 and 5 years if they're lucky, right? So a lot of athletes have a very short ride. And unfortunately, a lot of athletes don't properly prepare for the years that are going to come, but decades that are going to come when they aren't playing a professional sport, making millions of dollars. And so while they're at their height and while they have the media attention and while they have the network connections and while they have the resources, it is a perfect time to have a brand underneath them that they own full equity, that they can leverage all of their playing years for so that it's built up when they're done playing. They have something that's driving revenue and they have something that's going to give them purpose as well, right? Because a lot of athletes struggle when they retire on having purpose. And so this brand, this business gives them that purpose.
You talk about purpose, my friend, and I want to know why Phantom Brand is your purpose. I know when you initially started your business, you made 98,000 bucks in 1 month, my friend. So why does your business give you personal purpose, my friend?
So I jumped into clothing from my corporate sales role because I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I wanted to start my own business. So I started my own brand. And I've always loved clothing and dressing well and designing things. So it's been very enjoyable for me. And that brand has turned into Phantom. But when it comes to purpose, Phantom has given me a lot of purpose in seeing something come to life. I really, as a human being, and obviously I have a team, but as a human being, I really enjoy taking ideas, taking personal interests, and creating a physical representation of that as a brand, as a product, and having it come to life. I love every aspect of it. I think it's fascinating. I like the content side. I like the social media side. So I really just like seeing something come to life from just nothing but an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for any entrepreneurs watching this, Jerry, that don't have a heck of a lot of money for marketing or branding. What are some key steps that they can take to build a sustainable brand that'll last if they don't have a heck of a lot of money? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
I would say organic content is going to be their best friend, absolutely, whether it's a physical product, whether it's a service, whatever it is. If you're low budget, you need to get good at organic content. You need to get good at communicating and speaking into a camera. You need to learn the basics of editing and really just study how organic content works on each platform, because that is your best friend. It costs basically no money other than your time and maybe some software. So I would focus heavily on organic content.
Yeah, to that point, what do you think it means to take advantage of seen and hidden potential when you're building a brand, my friend? How important is it to take advantage of opportunities when you're building a brand? What are your thoughts there?
I would say that your selection of opportunities is very important. Kind of how we mentioned earlier, where if you're just jumping at every opportunity and you're not seeing a long-term play, you're going to hurt your brand, right? So making sure and having a proper process and vetting opportunities that actually make sense for the long term, right? Not just the 6 month plan, but the 5 year plan is going to help you navigate those waters of, is this something that I should invest time, energy, and resources to, or is this something I should simply pass on?
Yeah, and I want to talk now, Jared, about brand recognition. And when you achieve brand recognition initially, what do you think is the key to maintaining sort of that sugar high once the initial uh, effectiveness of a brand recognition strategy wears off? So, what do you think is the key to maintaining consistent brand recognition? What are your thoughts there?
That's a great question, because a lot of brands do have a short shelf life. They come into the space, whatever space that may be, and within 6 months to a year, everything that made them unique has kind of been played out, and it's difficult for them to pick momentum back up. So here's what I would say about maintaining recognition and continuing to stand out. It's a dance between leaning into your winning products and what's already working and continuing to innovate. So this could mean new colors and new variations for winning products. That's going to help you maintain sales, but also from an innovation side to make sure you're staying fresh and staying new, changing up content, changing up unique products that maybe you just don't hold a lot of inventory in, if that makes sense. So it's a dance between leaning into what's already working, but also having consistent innovation in your strategies and your content and your products to maintain that fresh recognition and stay on top of people's minds.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jared, how do you think you can use brand recognition to increase lead generation in business? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think it comes down to innovation and still understanding target audience, right? So we don't want to stray too far with innovation, but let's say we really understand our target audience, we can innovate within their realm and give them new ideas. We can give, if we're talking products, we can give new colorways, new content, right? And tweak things a little bit without getting too out of the box, because we still want to resonate with them, but at the same time, keeping things fresh and innovating is really going to help this in terms of leads.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jared, do you think there's a benefit or a drawback to being too inclusive when it comes to a brand building? You know, we always talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's also important to sort of have a niche market when building a brand. So I'm curious, how do you think we can strike the balance between being inclusive and serving to the audience that we really want to serve to, my friend?
I think being inclusive is awesome. I would lean into that a lot, especially starting out. I think the deeper you can go with one demographic, the more loyalty you're going to get. Like, every metric is going to be significantly better than if you're trying to serve everybody. I don't think it's possible to serve everybody in general, right? So I would be very niche starting out. It's going to serve them better, and this will allow you, with your heightened loyalty or heightened engagement, to raise your prices, to have better selling items. So I think it really is going to have a positive effect if you are willing to be a little bit more niche down, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when you started your brand, my friend, you really took off once celebrities started to wear your brand product, my friend. So Talk to me about the initial stages of your business and building relationships with celebrities and how it helped your business, my friend.
Yeah, so in the beginning of my business, I didn't have any connections or relationships into any of those worlds. So what I did to acquire customers was obviously organic. I tried paid ads, and then I was just blasting out DMs all day, every day to athletes, entertainers, artists, anybody that had a public following I wanted to get my clothes on. And it took me months and months and months of consistently reaching out, consistent DMs to get one person to finally wear and tag my stuff. And then thankfully it's a snowball effect, right? Because a lot of people in the public eye aren't going to be the first ones to wear a brand for free if nobody else is in it that they can't recognize. So thankfully, as it got more people and as it got athletes and artists and etc., it became a snowball effect. I didn't have to try as hard to get big names to wear my stuff. And then once the snowball effect happened, everything started to kind of seamlessly come together. And it was just a lot easier to acquire clients, customers at that point because I had so much social proof.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about social proof. You know, a lot of businesses spend a lot of time making content, hoping to build sort of that, what I call social capital in business. What do you think is the key to really creating social campaigns that stick to brand? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
I would say what worked really well for us is focusing on quality over quantity, where I know a lot of brands create a ton of content, but ours, again, it depends on your target demographic. So my streetwear brand was very status driven. So I would rather post once a month of a big name celebrity than post every single day, but have it be low quality TikToks or low quality short forms because that doesn't lead into the brand that we have. So understanding your brand is really going to dictate your content strategy. Our brand was able to be strong with a lot of social proof because our demographic could go on our Instagram and see people they were literally fans of wearing our product, right? So that's a very, very high indicator of creating your brand is if your target demographic can see people they know of wearing your brand. That's where a lot of social proof can come into play.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you're a big believer in creating good habits in business and instilling sort of that change mindset, my friend. So tell me, what do those concepts mean to you personally and in business, my friend?
The concepts of habits.
Habits and changing mindsets when
Got
appropriate,
it.
my friend. Yeah.
That's everything. I truly believe that the mindset, the inner game is so foundational and so important to not only life, but how you succeed in business. I mean, it's a very constant game. You always have to be, as the founder, you always have to be on, you always have to be guarding your mental and emotional state, your physical state even. So I place a big focus on my mind, on my thoughts, on my habits, because they are ultimately what is making me as a person. And who I am as a person is going to dictate how I'm able to lead a company. It's all connected, and that's why I focus so heavily on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about your transition from your mindset transformation and manifestation, my friend, because I know you're big into manifestation, and I know it plays a big role on how you view mindset. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think they're all connected, correct.
And why do you think that, my friend?
So the quote unquote manifesting has really been watered down in society. But when you get to the truth of how to manifest and how to create your reality, it stems from your thoughts, your mindset, right? It's all intertwined. And so when you understand how to create your reality and manifest, what it comes down to is really embodying who you want to be now, right? That future version of yourself, bringing it into the now. And that starts with how you think, your mindset, all of that is very intertwined with creating reality and manifesting to the highest degree.
Yeah, and Jared, if I gave you a stopwatch and I told you you could go back to any a portion of your life to sort of give yourself a message for your future self, what portion of your life would you go back to, and what message would you give yourself?
I would probably go back to when I was a late teenager. maybe around the time of 18 or 19. The reason I don't think I would go earlier is because I don't think I would listen to myself. But I think when I was 18 or 19, I'd be a little bit more open-minded. And I would premise the importance of self-improvement and personal development. That is something that I didn't focus on for a very long time until I became an entrepreneur. And then it did become a choice. I had to do it. I would tell myself to focus on personal development, focus on crafting my mindset, focus on thinking bigger and on a longer time horizon, and that would be a massive positive effect in my life.
Yeah, Jared, I'm curious to ask you about how you think the whole idea of vulnerability and success are intertwined both in business and in life, my friend, because I think there's a real power in being vulnerable from a masculine perspective. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on your definition of masculine vulnerability and how it translates to both business and in life.
I find that when you speak about things you've been through in an angle that tells people how you've been through them so that they gain value on how to go through it themselves, that is when I see the highest ROI and vulnerability. Because in my content, in my personal brand, I talk about the health things I've been through, the business things I've been through, and every time I can speak on something I've overcome and I know what I did to overcome it, I'm giving people value because I'm telling them how I did it so then they can do it themselves. And I think that is one of the biggest pillars of my content right now.
Yeah, and Jared, if I gave you a sheet of paper and I asked you to write the one sentence that you want people to consume when they look at your life, my friend, what do you think that sentence would read, and why would you construct it the way you do, my friend?
The one sentence I would say is the only limit is yourself. And I mean that wholeheartedly because I've seen it firsthand with my own mind. And it really just comes from the inside out. A lot of people self-sabotage, a lot of people have limiting beliefs around what's possible, and it really hinders them. It really hinders what they are able to achieve in their life. And if people genuinely knew that the only limit was their self, they would be able to do anything they wanted.
Yeah, and outside of your business, my friend, I know you've got a lot of personal interest from sports to music to everything in between, my friend. So I'm curious, what brings you the most joy in life, my friend?
I love making progress towards my goals. I think striving for more, achieving more, coaching people, helping people in my e-commerce business brings me great satisfaction and joy. And I think that the most important thing to me right now is to not waste my potential, to make the most of my time on here on planet Earth and help other people. I think that takes the cake.
Yeah, and Jared, I'm a huge believer in internal motivation because it's my belief is that if we don't set an internal level of expectations for ourselves, it's hard to meet the level of anybody else's expectations for our own life. So tell me about your own level of internal motivation, how you sort of put more gas in that gas tank when that's sort of depleted, my friend. So tell me about your process in getting more internal motivation.
So I have a couple exercises I do. One of them is I have a piece of paper on my desk that talks about all of the pain that could happen if I don't achieve the things I want to achieve. And obviously, I know that sounds pretty grim, but what's really important to understand is that using your pain is power. People only really create drastic change and make drastic decisions when they absolutely need to. If somebody's comfortable, they're never going to change, right? They're never going to make a decision. They're never going to commit. So I choose to leverage that to my own personal gain. And I take my pain and I put it basically right in front of me. And that allows me to maintain a level of motivation and consistency every single day because I'm avoiding the biggest motivator that I could possibly have, which is pain.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jared, how do you think you've grown the most in business since starting Phantom Brands, my friend?
I would say I've grown a lot when it comes to client relationships. When you own a clothing brand, what I did previously, it's very product to consumer, and you don't really engage that deeply with a company or with a client on building a relationship. And so I lean so heavily into building genuine relationships and working with people and going above and beyond in the services that we provide. And that's a big, big distinction that I didn't have previously when I was just the transaction was a product and not a service.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jared, so I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about myself. So I originally went to school to become a sports reporter. And as a part of my disability, it affects my speech. And sometimes my words come out faster than my brain wants them to come out. So I have spent a large amount of time in perfecting communication, and it's one of the ways that one of the reasons rather, I started this podcast is to improve my communication skills and the way I communicate as a journalist. And sometimes, I told myself when I started this podcast, I had to take a leap of faith in myself when it comes to improving communication. So I'm curious, how do you work on constantly continuing to improve communication? Because communication is everything in business, isn't it?
I think it's so important. I think it is the most important soft skill you could possibly have. And how I've worked on it is being very conscious and aware of my speech and also looking back on podcasts I did or meetings I had and identifying things I didn't like about my speech, like watching film and sports, right? You're able to see what you did wrong, what you did right, what words you don't want to use. I'm also very, very aware of filler words. I made a conscious decision to never use filler words basically ever again because I understand how important communication is. If I wasn't able to communicate at a very high level, I wouldn't have the clients I have. I wouldn't have the business I had. I wouldn't be able to create content and attract more clients that I am doing. So it's absolutely important. And I think for everybody watching that wants to get better at communicating, I would listen and study fantastic communicators, and I would practice and I would practice and I would practice and have a feedback loop to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jared, as an old sports reporter, I have to ask you this question, my friend. Working with so many athletes, buddy, how has working on the brand sort of influenced your personal sports influences, my friend? How do you sort of relate this sports in your own personal life, my friend?
So I definitely have to be a little bit more aware of the players and the clients that I have and the teams that they're on. That I think that's an important piece. I'm also a diehard Laker fan. I've been a Laker fan for forever. So I enjoy sports. I think sports is a fantastic way and a very entertaining way to detach from the things that you're currently going through and to be mindful of something else that's very entertaining. So I'm a big fan of sports, and I was also a previous athlete in high school, so I fully understand the level of discipline and commitment it takes to perform at the highest level. And so I have a lot of respect for professional athletes as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, my friend. And tell me, how does your previous sports background sort of influence your competitive spirit in business, my friend?
There were a lot of lessons that I learned from being an athlete that I've carried with me to this day as being an entrepreneur. A lot of them have been discipline, commitment, the ability to work hard, the ability to push through pain and discomfort, and just to have grit and resilience. I think when you're an athlete, not every day is going to be a great day, and definitely not every day you're going to want to practice or you're going to want to play, but continuously showing up, putting your best foot forward are principles that are applicable in any realm of life that you want to be successful in.
Yeah, and how do you define resilience, my friend?
Keep going, right? Not giving up. The only way you lose is when you quit. And so I truly believe that being resilient is being able to just get punched in the face, overcome obstacles, and just refuse to quit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jared, I don't know if you knew this, but October, my friend, was a National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And I have to tell you, buddy, that people with disabilities have a 50% less higher unemployment rate than their non-disabled counterparts. It's one of the reasons that I became a motivational speaker, because when I graduated journalism school, buddy, I went through 10 job interviews, and news directors would tell me that I was qualified for a job, but because of my disability, they refused to hire me because they viewed it at the time as a liability. So I transitioned to entrepreneurship and giving speeches because I wanted to sort of break down the barriers of exclusion. So tell me, how do you think entrepreneurship can give folks with disabilities a path to prosperity? What are your thoughts there?
I think what you did is very inspiring. I think other people should also look at your story as a marker of what's possible, right? Because you went up against the odds, you were told no over 10 times, and you found a way to do the things that you want to do on your own path. And I think clearly that is a fantastic route that a lot of other people with disabilities can go because you've done it. You know, you can be their inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jared, you mentioned that you were a Lakers fan, buddy. So how do you think the JJ Redick experiment is going, my friends?
I think it's going okay. I think obviously as a new coach and as a younger coach, he still has a lot to get under his belt and learn, of course, which is normal. But I do believe he's a lot better than our last coach.
Well, you know, the proof will be in the numbers, right? But my friend, I'm also curious to ask you about, and this is my final question, my friend. I'm curious to ask you about creating more bridges of unity. I started this podcast 4 years ago, Jared, because I looked at the world and I told myself that there has to be more that brings us together than tearing us apart. So tell me, from a societal perspective, my friend, how do you think we can build more bridges of unity?
I think being more conscious of that is very important. I think having more intent as human beings to connect with others is also something that we absolutely need, right? I think a basic human need is community. And too often people are neglecting it, myself included, right? I get caught up in work and other things and I stop trying to meet other new people. And what I would say is it's absolutely important and we need each other. Like human beings need human beings. And if we can come together and connect or, you know, around like-minded things and meet in person or do whatever, use the internet to that advantage, it's going to not only help your life, but everybody else's life as an effect.
Yeah, and just one follow-up on that, my friend. You know, if I asked you to ask one of your best friends or people who know you best to give a toast about you at a lifetime achievement party, my friend, what do you think they would say, or what would you want them to say, and how do you want your legacy to be defined, my friend?
That's a very interesting question because I'm sure a lot of people don't want to talk about themselves like that. But what I would imagine they would say is somebody that definitely did it their own way, somebody that definitely did not conform or you know have a cookie cutter life. I would imagine they would also say that I was very misunderstood, but at the same time wanted to make a really big impact and dreamed really big and went for the things I wanted to go for in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Jared, tell me if people want to get connected with you personally or Phantom Brands, what's the best way they can do that, my friend?
I'm Jared Jennings on all platforms, so TikTok, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. My coaching website is jaredjennings.com. And obviously for Phantom Brands, it's phantom-brands.com.
Fabulous. Well, Jared, I had a blast talking with you this afternoon, my friend. I wish you good luck on all of your current and future endeavors, my friend. And I want to thank you for engaging in conversation and being a role model of how to really go after your own definition of prosperity, my friend. I want to thank you for engaging in conversation and for being here this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Thank you, Kevin. Your story is very inspiring as well. So I wish you the best of luck too. Thank you for having me.